There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Notice anything different? I got glasses. I don't think I'm going to wear them during filming, at least not indoors, because look at that glare from my ring light. It's really terrible. So here they are. They're my favorite color, green. I used to have frames exactly like this 15 years ago, so it's kind of retro for me. I'll take them off now so you can actually see my beautiful eyes. I wore glasses for 25 years. Then I got a new pair of glasses about 7 or 8 years ago. I got an eye test, and the glasses I got here in Tokyo about, like say, 7 or 8 years ago, they were great. I have astigmatism, so it affects both near and far. But the new glasses, which were really cheap, these were even cheaper, but the new glasses I got were perfect for far, but terrible for close. So I just stopped wearing glasses because everything that I do in my life is close. I found that I could read very comfortably and write on the blackboard, write on the whiteboard as a teacher, and didn't need glasses at all. So I just kind of gave glasses up. My apartment is small. The TV, don't even have a TV now, but the TV was close. Like I just didn't need glasses at all. So I just kind of stopped wearing them for almost a decade. But now that I'm back on the computer so much, not the iPad, but the computer, the distance and the amount of Zoom classes I'm teaching and Zoom videos I'm making for YouTube and everything, I'm finding I was squinting a lot and my eyes got really tired. So last weekend, the eyeglass shop here in my local neighborhood was open. So that's where I found these glasses, and that the glasses in that shop were quite expensive, but these were the only ones I liked, and these were $50. And in Japan, they do the eyeglass test for free in the eyeglass shop, and uncharacteristically, I had to wait a week to get them because they had to order them in. Usually it's same-day service, but yeah, $50 for a new pair of glasses. Meantime, I have had a busy, fairly productive, pretty darn good reading week. I have 2 bales to tell you about. The first one, sadly, was this Iraqi Welsh novel, The Watermelon Boys by Ruqayya Izzidian. I just didn't think that the writing was good enough. The execution of the debut novel, a chunky debut novel, was good enough to hold my interest, so I bailed quite early. Not very much further than after I reported to you last time. This was a buddy read with Sarah of Hardcover Hearts, and I think she was just kind of waiting for me to bail because she bailed immediately after. There's potential here, the kind of potential that I thought, well, I'm not going to try her next novel, but maybe her 3rd or 4th. Life is too short, and I have too many good books on the go, so this one, I didn't make it till the end. And this one also was even more of a shock. I got 50 pages into Rachel Ferguson's 1942 novel Evanfield and bailed. And I just found the writing really, it was whimsical yet tedious, very entertaining yet extremely dense, and it was giving me a headache to try and read it at the pace that I had suggested Leah, my friend from Canada, and I buddy read it. So I was already a day late for the first 90 pages, and I read, I think it almost killed me to read the next 10 pages to get up to page 70, or no, I got up to page 48, and I was supposed to be up to page 91, and I just thought, you know what, I can't do this. And I don't know if it's the kind of week I had. Did I have an emotional week? Maybe a little bit, but it just wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right pace, so I bailed. Leah just laughed, probably rolled her eyes with love and said, don't worry. And she has since finished it. She was finding it quite difficult to read for some reason too. We had an interesting conversation about it. She just sent me a message this morning and she really enjoyed the last 2/3 of it. And so I think at another time and at my own pace, because I told her, I could finish this with you if it was only 10 pages a day, but I don't think you want to slow down that far. So that's probably how I will read it, 10 pages a day. Later, I'll pick it back up because, no, that was really the writing. I've already used one Sunday sentence, and I think I have one on my short list for this coming Sunday's Sunday sentence. But it just seemed to be clotted with anecdote with no sense of a story progressing, and apparently that did kind of get resolved. and the anecdotes or the sketching of the background of the neighborhood of this home, it was all very interesting in short doses, but it was killing me to read more than 10 pages a day. So I've set it aside. I will probably come back to it at some point. So those were my bales. And I have only finished one. I was hoping to finish about 3, but it just didn't happen yesterday. Yesterday ended up being a day where I was in the right mood and had the right amount of energy and was in the right headspace and had the apartment to myself for most of the day. So I made a bunch of videos, 2 of which you've already seen. 2 of the videos I made yesterday, I posted yesterday. One of them was about Tim Winton's Cloud Street, which I finished this week, and I loved it. I'm not going to regurgitate what I said in my video. It wasn't quite a review video. It was more of a response to the fact that my good friend, BookTube buddy, Greg of Supposedly Fun, bailed with 100 pages left to finish. He and Sarah. Sarah, you have been watching too many of my videos, bailing on 2 in a week. One I approved of and one I didn't. No, I don't disapprove of anybody bailing ever. But I saw many flaws in this book, but I absolutely loved it. And I talk about all that in the video, which I will link in the show notes, which I just put up yesterday. And I am now a big Tim Winton fan and want to read all of his stuff. Maybe one a year or something. But yeah, he's a fantastic writer. One of the best. And that's all I have finished. I came within striking distance of a couple more, and yesterday was more about video making and editing than it was reading, so I thought, yeah, I'll just go where the spirit moves me. If all goes according to plan, I should have a whole swack of finished books to tell you about next week. And I have started, I think, 3. This is Editing Sean. I totally forgot to add this one, which I told you about last week, and that is Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. This is a buddy read with Hannah of Hannah's Books. The book is going well. I'm a 20% or something into it, and really enjoying the writing. It is about a African-American community on an island off the coast of North Carolina, or maybe South Carolina, and Georgia. I think it's a mythic. It's not a real place, but it's not within either of those states' jurisdiction. So they have been able, it was settled by former slaves who murdered their master way back in the day and have lived an autonomous life because they've never been able to be controlled by state authorities, and it has a rich history and a colorful cast of characters. One of the younger women is now living in New York City and pursuing love and professional success there, and so there's a couple storylines going on, and I'm finding it quite delightful. That's all I have to say about it for now, but it's sure starting out good, and really enjoying the buddy read with Hannah. And I totally forgot to mention it, so let's carry on, shall we? My currently reading is down to 16. Progress, people. Very haphazard progress. After I bailed on the Iraqi Welsh novel, I decided to replace it with a fully Welsh novel, Eleanor Lewis's Dew on the Grass, which I'm reading on Scribd, a 1934 novel. And I'm just looking at the Goodreads synopsis for the very first time, and it says it's autobiographical and set in the Welsh borders. I don't know what it means to be set in the Welsh borders, but maybe I will be able to understand that when I finish the novel. It's starting out beautifully. It's a very charming story. It's such a Sean book. My decade is the 1930s. Female novelists of the 1930s. Bring it, bring it. I love it. Not very far into it. I don't usually like reading about children. The way she writes about these children and playing hide and seek, it's so engaging. I'm just having a ball with it. Reprinted in 2006 by Hano Press. Wednesday, I started this Yuko Tsushima. I thought it was one short story of dogs and walls, but I don't really like what they do. This series is weird. The titles they include are weird. Most of them I have no interest in. Like, they've got Marxist tracks and just a hodgepodge of stuff that's kind of slapdash thrown together, I think. And I mean, green's my favorite color, but not this cream de menthe shade. But anyway, this is actually a collection of 2 short stories, one of which, the one I haven't gotten to yet, is Of Dogs and Walls. I read the first story yesterday, called The Watery Realm, and compared to her fuller length fiction, I have read 2 novellas of hers. Territory of Light I liked a lot, and then Child of Fortune I loved with all my heart. This short story was not successful. It was not well executed. There was a lot of fascinating stuff in it that seemed to be autobiographical. It involved the protagonist's father's suicide, and I'd have no idea how closely the story follows the life, but Tsushima's father was the Japanese novelist Osamu Dazai, who committed suicide when she was a baby. And that's what happens in the story. He took his life on June 13th, 1948. And he was 38 when he died. And I was, like I say, really sucked in by the details. I just didn't think it cohered to make a satisfying short story. So I think that based on one short story only, Yuko Tsushima might be more of a novelist than she is a short story writer. But I will have more to say about that once I finish the second one. I have not read any Osamu Dazai. I have some of his novels or some of his works on Scribd. Haven't gotten to them yet. Oh, I see. His real name was Tsushima Shuji. His pen name was Osamu Dazai. I always wondered about that. Okay, so that's where her name comes from. There's details about the suicide in the story involved him and his mistress, him and his lover, drowned, and I see some that's fairly autobiographical. You can go to his Wikipedia page and find out, but it was pretty scandalous. And I didn't think I was going to get to this, and I think that Springathon is long. It's over, isn't it? I don't care about deadlines for these kind of things, but I did start The Beauty of the Death Cap by Catherine dos Tessier-Coz, translated by Tina Cover from the French. And I'm just about 20 pages into it. It's a short novella, and it is intriguing as all get out. The translation is really good, and the story is really strange and interesting. It's written in the form of a memoir of a man whose father was a mycologist, a mycomaniac, and the son was a mycologist prodigy at the age of 2, and the story so far hinges on which was their favorite mushroom and the conflict between them based on which mushroom they were obsessed over. And I've been Googling the mushrooms. It's fascinating. I don't know anything about mushrooms, but I like mushrooms, and I'm learning a lot about them as I read this. It's very strange. I don't know what to make of it yet, but certainly holding my interest. So you'll see that I started 3, but they're all very short. Dew in the Grass is short too. I think it's about 200 pages. I have one more week left in the month. The only thing I'm planning to start between now and when you next see me, Friday, May 29, is this work of Canadian history, Clearing the Plains by James Dashik. The awkward, long subtitle is Disease, Politics of Starvation, and the Loss of Aboriginal Life. And it bugs me every time I read it to you because it should be The Politics of Starvation, not Disease, Politics of Starvation. It should be Disease, the Politics of Starvation, and the Loss of Aboriginal Life. But anyway, this has been on my shelf. I've been wanting to read it and been kind of nervous to read it for years, and I am doing this as a buddy read with Jay Shea, and we're going to do a very slow buddy read, a chapter a week. And the first chapter is short, and there's a prologue. So we'll do the first chapter and the prologue or introduction next week, and thereafter a chapter a week for, I think, 9 chapters. So it'll be a 9-week buddy read. So this is about what governmental and other racist colonial policies cleared the land of Saskatchewan to make way for my great-great-grandfather, Henry Mooney, and my great-grandfather, William Thomas Mooney, and down the line to homestead and to appropriate the land that had been cleared. And it's stuff that I need to know, and it's going to be a tough read, I think. So that is what's going on for me this week. Oh, the one thing I want to tell you, I attended, I guess the verb is attend. As an English teacher, I'm still kind of struggling with what verb to use, but I took part in is not either, because took part in is more active. I watched a literary event. I attended a literary, somebody help me out there. It's such a new thing. All the literary readings and stuff are now online. And I attended one with the Mexican novelist Fernanda Melchor, and it was on something called Crowdcast, and I watched it on Wednesday morning my time, about her newly translated novel, Hurricane Season, translated into English by Sophie Hughes, who I have read one other book translated by her, and she's a marvelous translator. and that's what first brought my attention to this book. But the story it's a very violent story about the hate crime motivated murder of a contemporary witch in Mexico in recent years. I think it's based on a true story to a certain degree. But the way that she talked about her approach to the violence and why she wrote such a violent story made me comfortable to give it a try, and she was wonderful. I loved it. The actual video of the conversation she had with someone named Nina McLaughlin is now available for anybody to watch on your own time. I watched it live. It's part of the Transnational series. I will put a link in the show notes, but I really got a lot out of it, and it felt like I was there. Like I got as much out of it as if I had gone to the bookstore or whatever and sat in the audience. So I am going to be doing more. The Hay Festival in Wales starts tonight, I think, and I'm going to be watching the... See, I'm going to take these off because if I don't take care of how I hold my head, like this it's okay, but like this is terrible, so I'll take them off again. The Hay Festival, which is kind of a literary cultural festival in Wales, has been for years. It's now completely online, and I'm watching a panel that happened tonight in Japan. I don't know what time that would be in Wales. Earlier the same day, I think, about Wales. So I might have more to say, and if I can find a link, and this goes up in time for you to register, although I think these things are usually available to watch later, so you don't have to watch it live, but I'm going to enjoy that, and I think an Ali Smith event next week if I can wake up at 2:30 in the morning. And that's something that I do miss about living in Canada. I used to go to all kinds of readings and writers' festivals and stuff, and there's very little of that. They do have an international literary festival here in Tokyo, but I have never been able to go. They don't start promoting it until like 24 hours before it's on, and everything's sold out, and I don't have time in my busy life to go find a ticket and go at the time that it's on, and I'm always working. It's always weekday evenings, and I'm teaching every weekday evening, so I've never managed to go to it. So this is going to kind of fill a void. All right, people, that's it. I hope that things are going well in your world, and happy reading.